Useless. Weak. Not worthy. The guardian of the universe.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed and Became the Guardian of the Universe movie. Before we start, please go support IsseiOmniversalCaos for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei is framed for trying to release the dark dragons that have been sealed away for thousands of years, but when he is about to die, he will discover that he is destined to protect the universe along with others. Chapter 1. This story will be mixed with DxD, Dragon Ball Super, Zero's Magic, Vampire Kingdom, and of course Godzilla. We can still see Issei with wounds all over his body, chained by his sleeves, and in front of him were his friends and family who had a smile on their faces. "Issei. Why are you doing this to me?" he asked with difficulty. "Sirzechs. You are accused of trying to break the seal that keeps the dark dragons contained," he said seriously. "Azazel. You didn't break it, but you only weakened it, and there's only 1 year left until they come out. Michael. I can't believe that all this time you've been allied with the Chaos Brigade." "Issei. That's not true," says the Drake. "Drake from the Boost Gar. Tell them what? That you're innocent. That you never tried to break the seals." "Issei. Why are you doing this to me, Drake?" Then he sees Rias' friend who had a satisfied smile on his face, and next to him were Rias and the rest of Issei's former harem. "Issei. You," was all he could say before he felt a great pain as he saw them extracting his Boost Gar. "Auden. We will take the Boost Gar from you and give it to Ryu, since he deserves to have the Red Dragon Emperor, not a traitor." Issei's torture reached all his friends and family. They began to beat him, launching attacks all over his body, all for a crime he never committed. Ryu already had Drake in his arm and with him made Escalon appear and use her to stab Issei in the stomach. Rias approached with a look full of hatred and fury. "Rias. I regret having reincarnated you when you should have died that night when that fallen angel attacked you. To Issei. You are not my son. P. From Issei. Ryu is a better son than you." Issei just closed his eyes as he listened to the insults from all his friends and family directed at him. "Isaka. It's time for me to die." He couldn't finish because golden lightning surrounded Issei's body, but then he began to form a very large being that let out a powerful roar filled with hatred, fury, and resentment. The lightning then surrounded Issei and disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving them very surprised and shocked. 3 dragon gods, sensing that power, simply said, "He's coming." In a forest far from the city, Issei appears, still surrounded by lightning. In his mind's eye. He was floating with his eyes closed, but several tears came out of them. But then he heard a noise like a roar coming from behind him. He opens his eyes but sees golden rays passing close to him, but they went straight behind him. He turns around and sees an enormous being. He was shocked not by its eyes, but by the power it exuded. It was so large that not even the 3 dragon gods Trixia, Office, and Gran Rojo could defeat it together, nor put up a good fight against a being of such imposing size and power that could destroy everything in its path. The monster approached Issei, but he stepped back slightly. The monster lowered its hand and extended it, making Issei understand and climb onto it. It brought him to within a few centimeters of its face, and Issei understood. He touched its head and saw all his memories and was shocked to learn that this being was older than the dragon gods, very, very ancient, and that it existed only to prevent a very powerful being from destroying the entire universe. "Issei. I understand," he said, looking at the monster who already knew what he had to do. The monster began to disappear in a flash, and golden rays entered Issei, who could feel that power coursing through his entire body until it reached a powerful and potent roar in his subconscious. Outside. After 2 hours, Issei began to wake up, realizing he was still in the forest where he had arrived. He got up and went straight to a nearby river to get some water. When he arrived, he started drinking, but something shocked him. His reflection. He saw that his hair had changed to white and his eyes were blood red. He felt that his heart no longer felt any emotion and that his face had lost all the light in his eyes and any sign of life. Issei walked along a cliff, seeing the entire city of Kuoh for the last time. "Issei. I feel that with this power I can do things, but my main goal is to protect this world, but looking at the city at least I know it's okay without me." He saw the necklace with a photo of him with Rias. "I'm no longer willing to keep fighting." He tears off the necklace and throws it away, shattering it. "Nor am I willing to watch worlds burn before my eyes. I will fight until I eradicate all evil in the universe. I hope my future comrades know where I am." He made a cut in the air and a dimensional rift opened, but he turned to look at the city one last time. "Goodbye forever, home." With that, he entered and the rift closed. In the world of Zero's magic. We can see Louise witnessing the kingdom of Tristan for the last time as it was attacked by an enormous enemy with enough power to destroy everything. Louise watches as a large plane flies overhead, firing bullets at the enormous beast. Louise. Saito, get out of here. Saito, Louise's boyfriend, or rather husband, heard her begging him to escape, but he ignored her. He wanted to destroy the beast and save everyone who was heading straight for a rift that appeared out of nowhere. Every person in the kingdom began crossing the portal directly into another world. Louise wanted to go help her wife, but her friend, Princess Henrietta, grabbed her hand. Louise, we have to get out of here. She said, pulling Louise along, who was crying because she couldn't help Saito. Louise. I shouldn't stay with him, I should help him, please let me go. She begged them to let her go, but they couldn't. Saito discovers that the ship had an atomic bomb and thought that with the perfect height and if he went at maximum speed, the impact against the beast would be so great that it would finish it off. Saito speaks to his friend. Are you ready, friend? He asked Derflinger. Derflinger? I always know you'll do it for her so she can have a better future. Saito. Thank you for being by my side, friend. With that, he ascends to the sky to about 2,000 meters high, but he sees the beast spewing fire from its mouth. He barely manages to dodge it, burning the wing of the ship slightly, but that doesn't stop him. He turns around and starts the engines to go at maximum speed. Saito spoke to Louise with the power of telepathy. Louise, he spoke to her. Louise. Saito, she said, unable to believe what she was seeing as she saw the plane descending at high speed. Saito, you must get out of there right now, she said desperately. Saito. I'm sorry, Louise, I won't be able to keep that promise to start a family together, he said, tears welling in his eyes. Louise. Don't say that, I know you'll get out of there, I know it, just get out and we'll build the family we both want together, she said, crying along with her friends and students. Saito. I can't, Louise, I can't leave the plane. If I do, it will just crash somewhere else. If I want this world to survive, I must end it, and that would mean continuing on my course. Louise. No, 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 get out of there quickly, please, I love you, get out, please get out. Saito. No, Louise, you must forge a new future in this world that is taking you away. I know you will find someone who will light up your heart as I did with you, but I just wanted you to keep a promise, he said, seeing that there were only a few seconds left to make an impact. Louise. What promise? She said, crying. Saito. When you have a child, tell them about our adventures, our triumphs, and about me. Crying and having a vision of herself with a white-haired man carrying a baby with pink hair and white streaks. Louise. I promise, Saito, crying. Saito. I love you, Louise. 7 seconds to make an impact. Goodbye, my princess, it was a pleasure being your friend, Derflinger. Derflinger. The pleasure was always mine, mate. Louise, no. She sees that the plane was about to crash. Saito. I love you, Louise, he said for the last time as he hit the ground. Louise and the others couldn't believe it. The impact illuminated the entire place, blinding everyone and killing the beast with the force of the explosion. The impact was so great that it caused an atomic explosion that was sending a shockwave everywhere. Louise. Situ, she screamed, crying, everyone was crying, covering their mouths. Lucy. Louise, let's go, the shockwave is about to arrive. The shockwave from the explosion was getting closer and closer. Louise. I must not stay, I must be with him, I must be by his side, I must. She couldn't continue because the director knocked her out and everyone saw him, even shedding tears of joy at losing a good friend who saved him and the entire kingdom. Everyone enters the portal and the director sees the place one last time being consumed by the wave. Thank you for everything you did, Saito. I promise to take good care of Louise with our lives. Have a good trip, Saito-san. With that, he enters the rift, which closes, and the wave arrives, devastating everything in its path, reaching over 100 kilometers away, leaving everything in ruins and ablaze. In the realm of vampires. He was attacked by an 80-meter-tall monster, but there were more of them all over the planet, and the vampires, along with the humans, fought against these monsters with the intention of destroying them before they destroyed the entire planet. We see Hyoudou being surrounded by several dragons the size of an adult person, and with his seraph power, he took down 4 of them and ran away. He could only hear the roar, the scream of agony, the pleas among others from each person and dragon that fought. Hyoudou found his team, along with Mecha and Kuoh, the queen of the vampires, who was somewhat injured due to the dragon's attacks. Hyoudou. What do we do? Mecha. There are too many of them and they're all over the planet. The children are under the city because these things can't detect them. Kuoh. We vampires have wiped out most of them, but more and more keep appearing. We don't know how long we can hold out, she said wearily. Shinoa. We must activate that weapon. Mecha. You're crazy, it will destroy the entire planet. We built it for a reason, in case an asteroid hit, but on this planet it will destroy everything in its path. Hyoudou. It's true, it will create a very powerful shockwave with fire and ash that will destroy everything, and there are still innocent people living there. Kuoh. Well, that's true, but she stopped because a vampire appeared. Vampire? Queen Krull, we have just been informed that cracks have appeared in the air at the shelters where there are children and people who survived, she said, astonishing everyone. Wait a minute, if he said in the shelters that means that. Everyone looks at the path that leads directly to the shelter. Everyone went down and sure enough there was a crack where everyone started to cross it, the vampires were crossing it too. Krull felt that something had happened to the other vampire leaders, she felt that each one of them had died. Vampire 3. Queen Krull, a human, activated the weapon. Everyone. What? Suddenly everything begins to shake and upon exiting, they witness a gigantic explosion, approximately 8,000 meters high and 4,000 meters long, sending a hot current of air, indicating that the shockwave is about to be unleashed. Krull and the others quickly cross the rift to forge a new future in this world. Yu and the rest manage to cross the rift, where it closes, and the shockwave arrives, destroying the city, evaporating the seas, rivers, lagoons, and vegetation, everything. After about 30 minutes, once the wave had ravaged the entire planet, there was only fire everywhere, with no sign of life. The sky turned black with clouds. Krull, Louise, Issei and the rest would now have a new adventure to dig into a universal threat. Issei's next harem. Goki. Louise. Krull Teeps. Cuss. Ravel Phoenix. Count the number. Mira. Officer Obris, the Dragon of Infinity. Trixia. Madison Russell. Oi from the Vampire Kingdom. Mitsuba, Kingdom of the Vampires. Aoi from the Vampire Kingdom. Baruko. Type. Sona Sotri. Tsubaki. Mirai Kimisuki from the Vampire Kingdom. Chapter 2. Issei was traveling through all the dimensions, observing their histories and lives. Some things only intensified his hatred, while others brought him a little peace. After about an hour, he realized there weren't any particularly interesting dimensions to live in. But just as he was about to give up his search, he saw a dimension inhabited by incredibly powerful and fascinating beings. Issei looked into their history and was so impressed that he decided to start over in that world. Meanwhile, in the world of DPS. You could see a girl with somewhat crazy red hair, as well as red eyes, and she had an orange combat suit. And in front of her was a purple cat wearing Egyptian-style clothes and with a victorious smile on its face. Bills. Surrender, girl, you'll never defeat me. Doki. I won't, I'm forbidden to lose. Point 1. Bills. As you wish. As I say that, I form a sphere of purple energy. Bills. Before creation comes destruction, he said while looking at Goki and his friends. Hack. 1. He could not finish because a great pressure was felt in the place, the sky darkened and golden rays began to fall, the oceans churned violently, and everyone felt a thirst for blood and death. Point 4. Bulma. What's going on? Number 18. Where does that murderous instinct come from? Piccolo. But it's very strange, I can't detect someone's Kai. Master Roshi. What's going on? Gohan. That instinct is huge. Goku. It must come from somewhere, and whoever it is must be very powerful. Vegeta. Look over there. Everyone obeyed and looked to the sky, as did Goki, Bills and Whis, and they saw a very imposing shadow descend and stand in front of the god of destruction and the Saiyan. So you want to destroy this planet? He said in a sepulchral voice, intimidating the god a little. Bills. And what if that's the case? He said, trying to sound authoritative, which didn't work. The angel was impressed by this, as it was the first time he had shown that kind of behavior to anyone, but a certain Saiyan princess was very shocked to see it. Vegeta. Is the god of destruction Bills feeling fear in front of that guy? He thought as he turned to look at the man who still hadn't revealed his identity. Whis. Excuse me for butting in, but could you tell us who you are? My name is Issei Hyoudou, but you can call me Monster X, he said, removing his hood and revealing that he had armor almost identical to his monster form, but revealing his face, making all the girls present blush. Bills. And what is it you want? Everyone looked at the white-haired boy, awaiting his response. He remained silent, staring intently at the god of destruction, which made him incredibly nervous. Issei. I wish I could be at peace, he said, surprising everyone. But if you so desperately want to destroy this place, he added, causing lightning to crackle through his body, I will kill you without a doubt. This shocked everyone, as he threatened the great Bills without caring that he was a god, and not just any god, but the god of destruction. Upon hearing this, Bills became serious, and a purple aura began to surround him. Bills. I don't know who you are or where you come from, but you just challenged a god. Issei. I've faced gods before, he said, remembering a certain demented Asgardian, but as I see it, you'll be worth it. Whis took Goki to join the others so they could watch the fight from a safe distance. Bills lunged at Monster X, who waited for the attack without moving a muscle, staring intently. Louise appeared in the city a few meters away, surprised to be back in a new place. She realized it was very different from Sato's. One of the inhabitants looked up at the sky, seeing explosions, shockwaves, and other phenomena. Louise focused on what it was, and what she saw made her blush. Meanwhile, the vampire queen, Kuoh, appeared on the outskirts of the city. Yu and her companion smiled, delighted by the different and beautiful city. The vampires watched, but one of them told the queen that something was happening in the sky. Everyone looked up, and sure enough, there was a fight between a cat-like creature and a white-haired man. Louise and the other girls blushed at the sight and decided to approach. Chapter 3. Bills had lunged at Monster X while it stood motionless, watching what he was about to do. The others watched intently, but something unexpected happened. Just inches from striking Issei, Bill's hand was stopped as if it were nothing, shocking everyone. Issei landed a blow on Bills, sending him crashing to the ground and creating a large crater. Bills got up, slightly sore, and saw Issei, who was still levitating, staring at him intently. Bills. This fight is not going to be easy at all, he said to himself as his aura of destruction surrounded him. Issei just stared at him as a golden aura surrounded him, crackling with rays of the same color. Issei descended abruptly from the sky, raising a large cloud of dust and debris. Bills assumed a fighting stance while Issei waited for his next move. Whis. Well, it seems Lord Bills is going to get a little serious. Oki. What, so in the battle we had you weren't serious? She asked, very impressed. Whis. That's right, Miss Goki. You made him release 45% of his power, and now he's releasing 80%. He said, shocking everyone, but that young man doesn't seem to be releasing his full power either, only enough to fight on par with Lord Beerus. Everyone was quite impressed to hear that, but they saw the god of destruction lunge at the Titan to start the fight. Bills was about to deliver a powerful blow, but Issei blocked it. He didn't realize, however, that it was just a distraction, allowing Bills to then kick him, sending him flying into a building. Issei got up as if the blow hadn't hurt at all and soared into the sky. Bills prepared his attack while Issei's eyes glowed orange. Whis. This is not good, he said, creating an energy barrier that covered the two of them. Without further ado, both launched their attacks, creating a clash, but little by little Issei's attack gained ground until it hit Bills directly, forming a great explosion that destroyed the barrier. Issei rose into the sky, emerging from the smoke, and a few minutes later Bills emerged with some scratches. Bills. You're strong, kid. He said with a smile, but before I destroy you, tell me who you are. He said in his serious tone of voice. Issei. I am Issei Hyoudou, or better known as Monster X Low, he said seriously. Oki. Wow, those two are really strong. She said excitedly. Vegeta. But it seems that Issei Hyoudou still has more power in reserve. Goku. How exciting. He's such a powerful guy. I wanted to fight him someday. Whis. And you're not wrong, Mr. Vegeta. But they couldn't continue talking because Bills unleashed 90% of his power and went to attack Issei, but Issei easily dodged the blow and then delivered a powerful punch to Bills' stomach, followed by a sledgehammer blow to his back that sent him crashing into a building. But in that moment, the building was reduced to nothing, and Bills could be seen covered in destructive energy. Note. Like Topo in the Tournament of Power. Bills. You surprise me, mortal, since you are the first one to force me to use my full power. Issei remained silent and charged at him, while Bills prepared a destructive attack, striking him directly and creating a huge explosion that disintegrated everything in its path. However, Whis managed to put up a barrier protecting the Z fighters. When the dust settled, they could see the city completely destroyed, but they could make out two figures. The first was Bills, and the other was Issei with his arms in an X shape. When Issei opened his eyes, he was enraged at the sight of all the destruction. Issei. You're finished. He said, his eyes gleaming. He charged at Bills, but Bills dodged and kicked him in the back, sending him flying. Issei got back up and charged at Bills, who did the same. They began exchanging blows, but Issei had the upper hand. Bills then sent him flying with an attack and unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks until he knocked him to the ground. Just as Bills was about to deliver a powerful blow, Issei pushed him away and then punched him hard in the face, sending him flying into space. Bills stopped and began creating a supernova. Issei's eyes glowed and both unleashed their attacks, creating a massive explosion that blinded everyone. When they opened their eyes, they saw something falling. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was Bills, badly injured, and descending from the sky was Issei, who had minor injuries and a small smile. Issei. I win, he said, still smiling, while everyone looked at him in amazement. Louise watched the fight from afar with a telescope and was surprised by Issei's strength. He was an incredibly strong being, just like her Sato. Watching him fight reminded her a lot of her husband. Some girls were surprised to see such great strength from Monster's Eye, especially since he still had more secrets to reveal. Krull and the others were speechless at Issei's strength in combat as he fought hand to hand against the enemy, and she blushed, or rather fell in love, just like the other girls. Chapter 4. After defeating the great god of destruction Beerus, Issei descended while the Z fighters watched him with awe and fear, sensing he would attack them and they would be powerless to defend themselves. Once on the ground, he turned his gaze upon the fighters, causing them to tremble. But Goki, looking into his eyes, saw no hostility or ill intentions, only pain, loneliness, sadness, and hatred. She was about to approach him when a great golden beam fell from the sky, striking the location where Monster X stood, blinding everyone for a moment. But when their sight returned, the white-haired boy was gone. Well, I think it's time for me to leave. He said, picking up a badly injured and unconscious Bills. It was a pleasure meeting you all, and I hope you take good care of yourselves. He said with his typical smile as he retreated in a pillar of light. They all just let out a very heavy sigh as they were observed from a mountain by our protagonist. Issei. So, a god of destruction, he thought as he looked at our favorite Sei in this world, is very interesting, he said as he disappeared into the shadows. With the warriors. They were still somewhat astonished by the appearance of Monster X and also by how he defeated the Great Bills without using all his power. Vegeta. That guy surprises me quite a bit. Goki. You're right, Vegeta. Besides being very strong, he's very cute. Number 18. It seems that the girl who is addicted to fighting has become interested in someone, she said mockingly. Goki. No, it's not that, she said nervously and blushing. Bulma. Leave that for later, now we have to investigate who or what it is, as well as find out if it is a threat or not. They all just nodded and took flight in different directions in search of our protagonists, but Goki thought he was different and just wanted to be at peace. Krull and company wanted to know who our protagonist was to find out if he was friend or enemy. Louise was the same, even though the army from her world came to this one to help in any case, but they had to adapt to this world. Both inhabitants of the two worlds went to the city and began to be like them, adapt, live like them, and other things. 2 months later. Almost all the Z fighters could be seen gathered at Bulma's house for a party, while Goku, Goki and Vegeta were training on Beerus's planet, while Issei was still missing. Note. I'm not very good at explaining time between dimensions, but I'll put it this way. In the Dragon Ball world, 2 months will pass, while in the DXD world, only 2 weeks will pass. The XD dimension. 2 weeks have passed since Issei escaped from the underworld, and reports were coming in that the seal containing the evil dragons was breaking down more and more, but not as the leaders had said. Instead, someone was weakening the seal, and besides, the new Sekiryuutei had hardly seen the former girl since Issei disappeared. Isaka. Each time the evil dragons have the opportunity to break free. Searches. But I don't understand, Issei was supposed to be the one weakening the seal. Azazel. At least. Auden. To which Azazel. Azazel. He couldn't finish because a dimensional rift opened and out came the 3 dragon gods who had unfriendly faces. Michael. Big Red that they make. He couldn't finish because Big Red punched him, knocking him to the ground. Gabriel. But why did he hit him? He asked while helping his brother. Jiroho. And you still ask why? He said it with hatred. Seraphol. What's going on now that's making her behave like this? Rias, what happened is that you betrayed a great guy who gave everything to protect you. Auden. Are you talking about that brat Hyoudou, Issei? Isaka. That wretch betrayed us, he tried to unleash the evil dragons. Office. He never did that. Big Red. Now I'll show you who the real traitor is. As he said that, he created a magic circle, revealing the new Sekiryuutei, who launched several magical attacks at the seal. Everyone was shocked to see who the true cause was, but they were terrified when they saw several dragons emerge from the seal and fly into the sky, disappearing. Searches. It can't be, he said, shocked. Rixa. He alone could not destroy the seal that imprisoned the dragons. Office. I needed Drake's power to free them. Seraphol. What have we done? Jiroho. They betrayed the only boy who gave his all to protect us. Gabriel. Issei, he said, shedding many tears as his wings changed from gold to black, a sign that he had fallen. Michael. Sister, he said, devastated at not being able to prevent his sister from falling and at having betrayed his friend. Azazel. I'm sorry, Issei. Isaka just started crying while touching her belly, just like Seraphol. Auden. But why haven't those dragons appeared here? Jiroho. It seems they want to look for something bigger. Searches. What a thing. Dragon Ball Dimension. In the depths of the forest near the northern capital, there were many corpses of dark humanoid dragons, and in the middle of them was Issei, who had some scratches and looked at the stars that shone in the night sky. Issei. It's close, he said, then left the area, leaving those corpses behind. Chapter 5. Several days had passed in the Dragon Ball dimension, and since then things had been very tense for the white-haired boy, as more and more dark dragons appeared each day, wanting to kill him. He didn't understand why, but he was beginning to figure out why they wanted him dead and how they had arrived in that dimension. Just thinking about who was responsible made him seethe with rage, because it meant that very soon he would have his full power and start a new war for the future of the universe, and perhaps even for the existing dimensions. The appearances of the dragons were so frequent that even the Z fighters had to face one or two at a time, having difficulty, but eventually defeating them and giving the news to Whis, who then told Goku, Goki, and Vegeta. But they only wanted to know about Issei, especially Goki. Meanwhile, in the DXD dimension, the leaders, having discovered the true traitor thanks to the three dragon gods, held a meeting and announced they would elevate Ryu to supreme demon. Many important supernatural beings, including faction leaders and their companions, Ria's parents, Issei's former parents, the Underworld Council, the Sitri, Phoenix, and Bale clans, and Volley's team, all awaited the Gremory clan. They then saw the aforementioned women enter, with Ryu embracing Akeno and Rias around the waist. This action angered Sirzechs and Azazel, but they had to remain calm for the plan to unfold perfectly. Sirzechs. Well, I'm sure you all know the reason for this meeting, he said, making everyone nod, but the leaders already knew the true purpose. Today we are going to promote Ryu, the current Sekiryuutei, to Supreme Class Demon. Volley. Ryu, I'm calling him when this is over, I want to fight with you. Ryu. Sure Volley, he said with a challenging smile, hiding his great evil. In Ryu's mental space. Drake was chained up with several wounds and very tired. Drake. No, don't do it. He is not who he claims to be. He is the traitor. You must find Issei. Ryu is the traitor. Listen. He shouted, but no one could hear him. Sirzechs approached him and handed him a wooden box with the Gremory symbol. Everyone applauded, but the leaders just stared seriously, while Yusaka, Serafal, and Gabriel glared at him with great hatred. Ryu took the box, but when he opened it, he and the others were shocked to see holy water spray out, hitting Ryu in the face and causing him to fall to the ground. Gremory clan. Ryu. Volley. What's wrong with them? Azazel. Don't be fooled, Volley, he's not who he says he is. Rias. But what are you saying? He's a great man and… Sirzechs. Open your eyes, Rias, he only used us. Ryu. So you already knew? He asked with a smile. Michael. Why don't you tell us who you really are? He said seriously. Ryu. Okay, let me introduce myself properly, he said, making a magic circle glow below him, which began to travel over his body while putting on armor. My name is Ryu Lucifer, I am a survivor of the Chaos Brigade and brother of Rias Lucifer. This news shocked everyone, as they hadn't thought that Ria's childhood friend was Rias' brother. Ryu. I should thank you for giving me enough power to break the seal that held the dark dragons captive, he said as he materialized a gauntlet that looked very faded. Auden. What happened to Drake? Ryu. I used almost all of my power to break the seal, now I'm on the verge of death, he said, shocking everyone. Albion. You damned bastard, how dare you? He said with great hatred. Ryu. There's only one way for him to be saved, and that's if his former wielder rejoins him, since they had a very compatible bond, and that would bring his power back. He said, making everyone remember a certain brunette, but you guys did me the favor of almost killing him, hahaha. Everyone began to shed many tears since they had betrayed their greatest ally friend son beloved. The most affected were the girls who had sworn love to Issei, his parents, and Drake. The Underworld Council surrounded Ryu while they had prepared some magic circles. Point 4. Ryu. Now you can't do anything because at any moment the dark dragons will come and it will be the end for you. I wouldn't be so confident if I were your child, a voice echoed in the room. Upon recognizing that voice, everyone tensed up and saw the three dragon gods emerge from a dimensional rift. Jiroho. Your reinforcements are never coming. Ryu. And what makes you think that? Office. Because they are no longer in this world, she said, shocking everyone as the most dangerous dragons had disappeared. Point 4. Dragon Ball Dimension. Everyone in the eastern capital was running in great fear, and you might wonder why. Well, it turns out that a large black cloud was forming in the sky, but the bad thing is that it wasn't an ordinary cloud, but thousands of evil dragons that were ready to start their attack. Meanwhile, outside the city. In a forest next to the city, a certain white-haired man was observing what he was thinking. Issei. Okay, I never imagined this could happen, he said, looking at the dragons. It seems those idiots let that miserable wretch get away with it, he said as he climbed down from the tree, where he was. They're nothing but ungrateful hypocrites who only cause trouble, he said, starting to walk towards the city anyway, time to clean up their new mess. In another part of the city. Krull and company had met Louise a few days ago and got along well. They were all chatting when suddenly a tremor was felt, causing both survivors to stand up and go to investigate, but to their surprise, they found evil dragons. Crawl. Attention vampires. The entire city must be evacuated. Kill as many dragons as you can so that people can get out. Vampires. If Crawl Queen. The entire army of vampires rushed to save the people. Albion. Attention my army, our mission is to do the same as Queen Crawl, kill all the dragons, but if you come across a boy with white hair do not kill him, he is our ally. An army from Albion came running, as did some inhabitants of Tristan, to help. Chapter 6. The game begins. Everything was in great chaos in the capital as all its inhabitants tried to escape the clutches of the evil dragons, but they wouldn't let them leave the city because they blocked all the exits, leaving them trapped. All of this was broadcast worldwide, making everyone fear for the lives of those poor people. At Capsule Corporation. We can see all the Z warriors watching this with great shock and hatred as they felt it was very unfair that so many innocent people were dying at the hands of those monsters. Number 18. Poor people. Bobby, Majin Buu female, we must do something to help those people. Diddle. No Bobby, besides, we don't know what they're capable of. Piccolo. That doesn't matter now, we must do something before they destroy that city. Number 17. But what can we do, they outnumber us. Krillin. Hey, look at that. Everyone looks at the screen and sees yellow laser beams plummeting down, killing evil dragons, and people in white cloaks with katanas killing dragons or restraining them. Gohan. Who will they be? Master Roshi. I don't know, but whoever they are, they're saving people, and their weapons are managing to kill a few, but those people in white cloaks have good fighting and dodging skills. Trunks. I say the same, they're very good, haha, I want my own sword. Oten. Hey Trunks, look, there's a girl with pink hair over there. Everyone sees a pink-haired girl who gave a tremendous kick to a dragon and sent it flying, going at a very fast speed and killing it. Piccolo. That girl has a high Kai, her speed and agility are very surprising. On screen, Krull is seen helping humans, but she is pierced by a dragon's claw. Everyone in the corporation couldn't believe that a little girl had died. Diddle. They killed an innocent girl. Piccolo. Don't wait a minute, something's wrong. That girl should have died a while ago. Everyone sees the screen where Krull headbutts the dragon and then kicks it, blowing its head off. Everyone sees the wound and it regenerates. Krillin. Is it my imagination, or is that girl immortal? An 18. It's immortal, darling. A hooded man can be seen on the screen. Hooded figure. Queen Krull, we're halfway through the city's evacuation. Krull. Pick up the pace, kill as many dragons as you can so that people will flee from here. Everyone in the corporation was speechless because I called her queen. Oten. Is she a queen? Trunks. Didn't you hear what that man said? Gohan. We must help them, they can't do it alone. Bulma. I'll call Mr. Whis and Mr. Villa to bring Goki and Vegeta back, Goku. Meanwhile, on Bill's planet. We can see Goki and Vigi training with Whis while he dodged the attacks of both Saiyans and Bills ate something. Whis. Come on, keep it up, girl guys. Goku. Lord Whis, don't move so much. Vegeta. Come on Kakarot, I can't believe you're the worst help I could have. Goki. Hey Vegeta, there's no need to offend me like that. At that moment, Whis' staff began to chime, drawing the attention of Vegeta, Goku, Goki, and Bills. Bills. Hey Whis, what's going on now? Whis. Let me see, Lord Bills, he said, checking his staff. Well, if it isn't Miss Bulma. Vegeta. What does he want now? Whis. Let's see, he said, showing a hologram. Hologram? Mr. Whis, if you are watching this, we need you to come quickly because a big problem has arisen that we cannot solve on our own, so we ask that you come to Earth now. Goki. Something really bad must have happened for them to ask us that. Bills. Well, let's go quickly so I can go back and eat in peace. Whis. It will take us about an hour. Vegeta. And we can't use this insect's teleportation. Goki. But it will be difficult for me since we are very far away and I won't be able to sense their Kai. Bills. Give it a try. Goki began searching for the Kai of her friends, but then she felt a very powerful and familiar Kai that surrounded the entire Earth. Goki. I already found them. Vegeta. So fast. Goki. It's because there's a very powerful Kai surrounding the Earth. Whis. Could it be Lord Bills? He asked in a whisper. Bills. I say it is him, he whispered. Goku. Hey, we have to go. So the four of them touched Goki's back and teleported to Earth, where they would soon see the potential of a certain white-haired boy. Upon arriving, they saw that they were on a mountain and decided to fly quickly to Capsule Corporation where their friends were. When they arrived, they saw everyone with a serious and worried expression. Vegeta. What's going on that you're calling us so urgently, Bulma? Bulma. Lord Whis, can you see what's happening in East City with your staff? Whis simply nodded and began to show what was happening in that capital, surprised like Bills, Vegeta, Goku and Goki as they saw thousands of humanoid dragons with dark armor attacking the capital. Goki. What are those things? Piccolo. They appear to be evil dragons, they have a very impressive Kai, I think they even surpass Goki's Super Saiyan 3, we don't know by how much, but it's by a lot. 10. And the bad thing is that there are a lot of them. Rashi. I estimate there are about 3,000 he said, shocking the newcomers with the number. Piccolo. But there are some people helping us with that. Everyone sees the staff again, and indeed they see how an army of people were fighting against the dragons, using strange weapons that managed to harm them, others that shot rays from staffs and cannons to all places where there were evil dragons. Vegeta. Who are those people? Goku. It doesn't matter who they are, what matters is that they are saving people. Brah, Bulma's daughter. Hey, I think they're going to do something. Everyone paid attention and watched as the dragons prepared a massive attack to launch against the capital. They couldn't believe the power emanating from that attack, but then they saw them launch it against the capital, creating a huge explosion that could be seen from several kilometers away. Diddle. No, it can't be. Obi. They completely destroyed the city. Whis. No, just the surroundings he said with a serious face. Number 18. But the attack struck the city directly. Bills. Look closer. Everyone looked at the hologram, observing that a kind of white barrier had covered the city. All the Z warriors didn't understand what happened until the barrier began to vanish into particles, revealing a certain white-haired man at the main entrance of the capital, who was wearing a trench coat instead of his armor. The Z fighters were impressed to see the guy who had saved their skins before, but Goki, Krull, Bulma, Videl, Android 18, Bobby, Louise, Tabitha, and some girls from Krull's world blushed when they saw him without his hat, and when he arrived, well Bills and Whis kept a serious face, since they might have the opportunity to see the potential that the white-haired guy had. Chapter 7. The Z warriors and allies versus the dark dragons. The dragons, upon seeing the white-haired man, froze, never imagining that the being they were ordered to assassinate was the same Sekiryuutei. But they disregarded that and decided to attack regardless of the consequences. Issei simply stared at them, his eyes glowing blood red as he surveyed their numbers. He then clenched his fists and began walking towards them. Krull and the others, seeing that the white-haired man had arrived, began to retreat a little, but they had to return in case things went wrong with him. Just seeing our protagonist arrive reminded Louise of her beloved. Louise. Sato she sees him start walking straight towards the remaining dragons. But the Z warriors. They only saw what was going to happen, but a certain group of girls were very worried about the white-haired boy. It was true that he was strong, but it was almost madness to face 1,000 enemies without knowing what their power was. Goki. We must go and help him. Diddle. I agree with Miss Goki. Bills. You just have to see it. Whis. Do you want to see how much power Mr. Beerus has? Bills just nodded, the Z warriors were about to say something, but then they heard the roars of the dragons. In the capital. The dragons were rapidly heading towards Issei, and he began running towards them as lightning crackled around his body, followed by a mighty roar. Monster X unleashed a golden beam from his hands, disintegrating about 20 dragons, and then began striking them one by one as he continued advancing through their ranks. The dark dragons tried to counterattack, but Issei was faster and didn't let them even touch him. But the Z fighters. They were very impressed by the white-haired man's skills and how he was taking down the dragons one by one. Piccolo. This is incredible. Rashi. It seems that this young man has a form of attack and defense that surpasses the form of the turtle. 10. Master Turtle martial arts aren't supposed to be the most effective. Yamcha. Well, it seems there's another one that's more effective. Whis. Mr. Bills, do you think that he whispered? Bills. That's right Whis, he's not from this world. With Issei. He was surrounded by dragons while holding a log and hitting them with it while spinning it around. Dragon 1. Catch him, he's just a man. Upon hearing this, the dragons began to swarm him, grabbing him and throwing him to the ground. Seeing this, the Z fighters flew off towards the battle zone, followed by Bag and Whis. When they arrived, they saw all the dragons piled on top of each other, their numbers growing even larger. Krull and company, just seeing that, got fed up and went at a very fast speed, as did the others who went to help our protagonist protect him. Goki. I won't let them hurt him he said, before proceeding to transform into SSJ3. Vegeta chose to transform into SSJ2, Goku into SSJ2, while the others just increased their power and launched an attack, but they would be intercepted by some dark dragons. Goki. Move aside. Dragon. No. The dragon was going straight to Goki when someone gave him a tremendous blow that sent him flying through many buildings until the last one came down on him. The Z fighters saw that it was Krull who had a serious face when she saw the dragons. One tried to eat her, but she kicked the dragon in the forehead, shattering its head. Everyone was impressed by Krull's strength, but in the sky they saw a lightning bolt strike 19 dragons, turning them to ash. They saw that it was Louise who had an annoyed face at seeing so many. Louise? Send all your soldiers to where there are more dragons. Krull? Yes. Louise rode off on a blue dragon with her friend Tabitha. Goku? Hello. I greeted Krull, but she thought I was a dragon and punched me in the stomach and delivered a spinning kick that knocked me down and created a huge crater from the force. Krull. Sorry, I thought you were a dragon. Who are you? Looking at all of Goku's friends. Krillin. We're friends with Goku, the one you hit. Gohan. Who are you? Krull. My name is Krull Teeps, Vampire Queen. Oden. But you're a girl. Krull puts on a gloomy face. Krull. Do I look like a little girl to you, little boy? She said, stopping a dragon's claw, then breaking its neck and throwing it to her friends. Oden. And no. Krull. I thought so. After that, he quickly gets off onto the roof of a building and then runs down the wall. Piccolo. Yes, she looks like a vampire, but there are no vampires on Earth. Rashi. It's very strange that there are vampires. 10. But you saw how he defeated them, especially Goku in SSJ2. Vegeta. Ha, it seems there's someone stronger than you, Kakarot. Goku. Ah, I think you're right Vegeta, whoever she is very strong, I'm already looking forward to fighting her. Goki. You only think about fighting someone stronger than you, brother. Meanwhile, Bills and Whis stayed at a safe distance with Videl, Bulma, and Bra. Whis. Mr. Bills, do you think they'll win? Bulma. What are you talking about? Of course they'll win. Whis. Mrs. Bulma, no offense intended, but the number is considerably high. Videl. And if that's the case, why aren't they going to help them? Bills. Because my duty is to destroy and observe. Not to fight. Whis. Besides, they have a great advantage. Bra. Which one? I asked, somewhat confused. They hear a great roar and see a golden beam strike the place where most of the dragons were, disintegrating them. Issei appears, his clothes slightly torn but without a scratch. The white-haired boy sees the other dragons and also notices a cable that is sparking. He grabs the cable and proceeds to bite it while draining all the energy, and then several beams shoot out from his body in all directions, killing the vast majority of the dragons. Goki. But what was that? She asked, very shocked. Vegeta. I've never seen an attack like that. Krillin. It seems he absorbed the city's electrical energy and released it all at once, shooting it everywhere. Goku. Incredible, his power is impressive. Obi. Where did this guy come from? Then they saw the dragons gathering together while laughing like madmen. Issei. What is nothing? Dragon 1. It's because our mission wasn't to defeat you. Dragon 2. Just for entertainment. Issei. Entertain me? Dragon 5. Yes, hahaha. Goki. And why? Dragon 6. So that he would arrive he said, pointing to the sea. At that moment, everyone saw bubbles beginning to form and the water rising into a large curtain of water. As it dissipated, a huge being with an octopus-like face, large dragon wings, and immense energy could be seen, making everyone tremble except for Issei. Dragons. Long live Cthulhu. They shouted as the aforementioned creature let out a great roar that was heard throughout the planet. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. The Terror of Darkness. The Z fighters, Krull and Louise, didn't know what to do or say as they stood before death itself. They had never felt such fear, and it was no surprise, for before them stood Cthulhu, a massive creature from a forgotten mythology. But its size wasn't the issue. It was its power, for its power was abysmal. Not even Beerus could hold his own against it, and what was most shocking was that Whis felt a twinge of concern upon sensing its power. Bills. Whis, tell me I'm going crazy and that the power I feel isn't really from that thing he said, very worried. Whis. I'm sorry, but that's your power, Lord Whis, and I think that thing could cause problems for my little sister Kuss. Diddle. Excuse me for interrupting, but could you explain what's going on? Bills. What he means is that that thing far surpasses a god of destruction he said, frightened, worrying Bulma and Videl. Bulma. Lord Bills, I didn't know you had a good sense of humor she said with a nervous smile, not wanting to hear what Bill said. Whis. I'm sorry Bulma, but Lord Beerus never plays with this kind of thing. Videl. So this is the end for us? Well, it seems so, girl said a voice that was a little more hoarse than awkward to Bill's. Everyone turned around to see whose voice it was, and they came across a cat identical to Whis, only fat, and a woman who looked very similar to Whis. Whis. Oh sister, Lord Champa didn't expect you to come for a visit. Betos. We felt a great energy when we passed near Universe 7. Bulma. Universe 7. Whis. I'll explain it to you later, Miss Bulma. From what I can see, Bills, you've gotten yourself into trouble again. Then a pink elephant appears next to a little girl who was wearing the same clothes as Vados and Whis. Do. Well, what did you expect? He's just a troublemaker. Now said a clown who was accompanied by a woman with her hair tied in two pigtails. Bills. Vermouth, Rumush, what are you doing here? Vermouth. The same as champagne and Vados. At that moment, Whis moved his staff, causing the Z fighters to appear, who were somewhat bewildered. Vegeta. Huh? What happened? Goku? We were there and now we're here. Whis. I brought them here. Obi. Why did he do it? Whis. Because this is an opportunity for Kuss to let go of his fear. Kuss. Wait a minute, what? Margarita. Well, it seems you want that thing to face Kuss. Vados. Margarita, Whis is right, Kuss must face his fear. Vg. But don't you think Monster X can defeat him? Whis. I doubt it. Kuss. Brother, who is this Monster X? Whis. A man who was able to defeat Lord Bills without any difficulty whatsoever. Champa. How did a mortal defeat Beerus? Hahaha. He laughed, followed by Vermid and Rumush, which made Bills extremely angry. Whis. That was no ordinary mortal. Vados. What do you mean, Whis? Whis. Well. He couldn't finish because he heard a great roar coming from Cthulhu. Everyone turned to look at the great creature and noticed that it had something in its hand, but upon closer inspection, they saw that it was Issei with a neutral expression. 10. It can't be, he has it. Krillin. This is going to get ugly. Margarita. I guess that's Monster X. Whis. That's right. Number 18. We must go and help him. Rashi. But we can't do anything against that thing, we could barely handle the dragons. Chaos. I think 10 is going to say something. At that point, everyone paid attention to what was going to happen next. Thulhu. So you are the being I must kill. Issei. And you must be the terror of darkness, the great Cthulhu. Thulhu. You're clearly not much of a man, but you must have done something to make my master want your head. Issei. And who is your master? Thulhu. The great demon Reddy said, making the white-haired man feel tense. Surely you know him. Issei. Yes, I know him. Thulhu. Well, it's about time you died, since I don't have much time left and… He couldn't finish because Issei began to be surrounded by many lightning bolts and was covered by a mass of golden energy, then caused a great explosion of energy, sending the great monster flying. Issei. I'm sorry, but dying isn't in my plans, he said in a deeper, more resonant voice. Oops, sorry, I forgot to show the image. It's the same as the cover, but just in case, here it is. As the dust settled, everyone was surprised to see a creature the same size as Cthulhu, white with black parts, blood-red eyes, a horn on its head, and a large tail that split at the end into 2 points. Issei. Now get ready because I will gladly send you back to your master. This story will be related to the titans of Godzilla, the king of the monsters, but also others from different movies, for example Orga, Gigan, Shin Godzilla, many more, but his friends will be the descendants of these titans, and all of them will have to stop the fearsome demon Red, the father of the monsters and god of evil. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. The Fury of a Monster X. Monster X and the Great Cthulhu stared at each other, creating a powerful pressure throughout the area that even affected the angels. Then, they both let out a mighty roar, challenging each other. They charged at one another, colliding with each other, and delivering a tremendous blow to the face that sent them flying in opposite directions. The Z fighters, along with the gods and angels, could only watch in awe. Champa. Vados, could this power come from them? He asked, very shocked, as were the others. Vados. That's right, Champa-sama, she replied, very shocked. Oki. Do you think Monster X will win? She asked, worried about the white-haired boy. Whis. All that remains is to see, Miss Goki, he said seriously. At that moment, they saw Monster X get up only to receive a blow from Cthulhu that made him stumble back, but he decided to return the favor with a sledgehammer blow, followed by a headbutt that stunned him. Then he delivered another blow to his stomach. Cthulhu grabbed him by the neck and began to back him up, while Monster X punched him repeatedly in the stomach, trying to force him to let go. Finally, Cthulhu grabbed him, lifted him up, and threw him far away. Cthulhu began throwing buildings at him, causing Monster X to take cover, but Cthulhu took advantage of his lowered guard and charged at him, then proceeded to deliver a series of blows. Cthulhu. You are nothing, he said, hitting him in the face. You are good for nothing, he said, hitting him again in the stomach. That's why they left you alone, he said, hitting him with a mace, trapping him in a mountain. That's why they betrayed you, he said, beginning to strangle him. Those words had been heard by the Z warriors, those from other worlds, and the divine beings, who could not believe that someone like Monster X could be betrayed, especially Goki, Krull, and Louise, who saw that in his heart he was a very good person despite appearing bad and sinister on the outside. Monster X. I dare you to repeat that, he said as he tried to break free from Cthulhu's grip. Cthulhu. That's why they betrayed you, he said arrogantly. Goki, Krull, and Louise, unable to bear it any longer, were about to go and help along with Vegeta, Goku, Android 18, Videl, Bopi, Kuss, Vados, and Margarita, but they were stopped by Bills and Whis. Bills. If they go there, they'll surely die. Goki. But Lord Bills. Whis. Listen to him, besides, we don't know if they've demonstrated their full power. Krull. We can't just stand here and watch him humiliate her. Louise. She's right, she said, trying to get them to let them go and help. Vados. Brother, we must do something or he will surely kill him, she said, very worried. Champa. I don't believe it, he said seriously. Videl. How does she know? Romush. Didn't you hear the way I challenged him? Hermit. Something says that this Cthulhu guy dug his own grave. Bills. It seems so. Den. Look, he said, pointing at the fight, noticing everyone as Monster X began to break free. Monster X broke free from Cthulhu's grip and, judging by his expression, didn't seem very happy, having scared Cthulhu a lot. But then Monster X punched him in the groin, making him back away while glaring at him with hatred. Cthulhu tried to hit him, but Monster X blocked it with his left hand and punched him in the face with the same hand, then punched him in the chest with his right. Cthulhu tried to hit him again, but Monster X dodged and punched him in the back, then blocked another of Cthulhu's punches and punched him with a left hook, then punched him in the stomach. Cthulhu tried to punch him, but the great white monster blocked it and punched him twice in the face and once in the stomach. Then he grabbed him by the neck and punched him hard in the face, slamming him into a building. Then he grabbed him by the head and kneed him in the face, then picked him up while roaring and dropped him roughly to the ground. Monster X. And I will never forget what you did to me, he said with hatred towards the unconscious Cthulhu. Everyone was shocked to see the humiliating way in which the great Cthulhu was defeated, but the Z fighters, Krull and her friends, as well as Louise and everyone else, were very happy about the defeat of that being. However, the divine beings felt a great intrigue about the great Monster X, as did Goki. Then, several red flames formed, from which cries and pleas could be heard, and a great power was felt that made everyone feel great terror. But Monster X already knew who it was. It's been a long time, Monster said, a shadow shaped like a giant scorpion. Monster X. Red, he said seriously as he looked at the great red demon in front of him. Chapter 10. Palermo. Chapter 10. Second Assault and Battle. Everyone watched in terror as the enormous red scorpion kept its gaze fixed on Monster X, who stood firm but deep down, felt pure hatred towards that being for what it had taken from him many years ago, something that was noticed by the giant red scorpion and could only burst out laughing, which was heard throughout the universe. Monster X. What are you laughing at, you bastard? He asked angrily. Red. I laugh at you still hold a grudge against me for what happened 100 million years ago. Upon hearing that, everyone was shocked, as it was difficult to believe that those beings had existed for so many years. Bills. You're lying. He said loudly so everyone could hear him. They can't have 100 million existences. Champa. Bills is right, you must be lying. Vermouth. We would have known of its existence if it were true. Red. Ha 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 ha, seriously, you're ridiculous beings. He said arrogantly as he made his flames grow, making him look imposing. Burmoosh. What do you mean by that, monster? He said, preparing an attack of destruction. Red. Do you really think that dwarf called Xeno-sama is the creator of everything you see, he said with a laugh, surprising the divine beings and making the Z fighters, Krull, Louise, and the others curious. He is just a simple protector of the creation of the true creator god. He said, shocking everyone. Monster X. That's enough. I'm going to shut you up forever. Having said that, he turned to attack Red, but just as he was about to connect the blow, Red created a barrier of flames to protect himself. The moment Monster hit the shield, he was launched against a mountain, causing it to fall on top of him. Goki, Krull, Louise. Monster. She shouted worriedly. Cthulhu. Forgive me for having failed, my lord, he said, getting down on one knee. Red. You had barely woken up, so you haven't failed me, he said, giving his power to Cthulhu, causing it to increase in size and power. Red. Now finish him off, he ordered, but if you fail, I will destroy you myself. Cthulhu simply stood up and began to unleash his dark aura, terrifying everyone and bringing a smile to Red's face. Red. Have fun, Cthulhu, he said, disappearing. Cthulhu just started destroying the whole place, while some citizens who were hiding in the area started running to save themselves. Goki. Damn it. She yelled angrily, transforming into Super Saiyan God and launching herself into the attack alongside her companions and the gods of destruction. But some of them were intercepted by more dark dragons, which appeared endlessly, leaving only Goki and Vegeta, Krul, Louise and Goku against Cthulhu. Cthulhu. Let's see if they at least serve as a warm-up. Cthulhu, upon saying that, began to attack Goki and Vegeta. Goku, Krul, and Louise barely managed to dodge the monster's blows and threw their Kai attacks at him without managing to do any damage. Vegeta. Final flash. Goki. Come on, come on. Goku. Kamehameha. Krul, with a new power from sucking the blood of the evil dragons, shoots a red beam from her fingers, and Louise, with her void magic, fires a mega beam. They all unleash their best attacks, striking Cthulhu directly and causing an explosion. The girls simply reverted to their base forms, breathing heavily. Goki. Do you think we defeated him? He asked while they were breathing heavily. Vegeta. I hope so, he said, just like Goki. Goku. Something doesn't feel right. Cthulhu. Well, sorry for disappointing you, girls and boy. As he said that, a large fist erupted from the smoke, striking both girls and sending them crashing into a building. Seeing this, Bills and the others tried to intervene, but the dragons wouldn't allow it, and Bills, fed up, decided to unleash his power. Bills. Hakai. He shouted as he created a sphere of destruction and hurled it at the dragons and Cthulhu, causing a huge cloud of dust. Ermush. I hope that's enough, he said as Kuss stood beside him. But then they heard a laugh that echoed throughout the place, and when the dust settled, Cthulhu could be seen without a scratch. Vermouth. With what's it like? Cthulhu. How is it possible that I survived your Hakai? It's very simple, you cannot destroy something that does not belong to the laws of physics of this world, he said, shocking everyone. But then they saw Cthulhu throw a punch at them. Kuss, Vados, and Margarita tried to protect them by creating a shield, but in the end, the force was tremendous, destroying the barrier and striking them all directly, seriously injuring them. Cthulhu. You are nothing compared to my power. Ha 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 ha. Goki, Krul, and Louise regained consciousness, and he could only see someone falling next to him. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was Kuss, badly injured. The three. See Kuss? I asked before being held by Cthulhu. Cthulhu. As I could see, you caught that idiot's attention, he said in a demented tone. Goki. Don't call him that again. He said, then spat at him. Krul. You're a monster. Louise. You're a real demon. Cthulhu. I'm going to enjoy hearing your screams. Having said that, he proceeded to put force into his hand where he had Goki, Louise, and Krul, who were on the tentacles of his head. He began to squeeze them, but they only gritted their teeth to avoid screaming. Cthulhu just smiled and tightened his fist, causing Goki and the two of them to let out a great heart-rending scream. But Monster X, Issei. He was buried under the large rocks in his unconscious human form, while blood came out of his head and on his chest, near the heart, he had a red stain, but then he heard the screams of Goki and the other two making him open his eyes, which began to shine with a golden color, while on his face a great hatred began to be reflected and golden rays began to surround him. Back with Cthulhu. He was still crushing Goki and the two of them who kept screaming until the great monster threw her roughly to the ground, causing a crater. Cthulhu. You're just a pathetic being, he said, looking at the crater where Goki was sent. You'd better accept your end like everyone else. Goki just started to get up while spitting up some blood. Goki. And never, while my heart still has life I know to be, he said, very weakly I will continue fighting. He shouted the last part, transforming into SSJ1. Cthulhu. If that's what you want, he said, preparing an attack towards Goki. Goki and her friends let out a loud scream as they watched Cthulhu about to attack, but then the sky darkened and a lightning bolt struck the area where Monster X was buried, causing Cthulhu to shudder. Then they heard footsteps and Cthulhu turned around, only to receive a powerful blow to the face that sent him flying. Goki. It's you, he said, looking at the Monster X which had been surrounding his body for a while. Monster looked at her for a moment, observing how hurt she was, only to then turn against Cthulhu while letting out a great roar. Cthulhu began to rise only to see Monster X rushing towards him. Cthulhu fired a large dark blue beam at the great monster, but Monster X leaped, dodging the attack and landing a powerful blow, as well as a tail swipe to Cthulhu's face. They then grabbed each other's hands and began to struggle, but Monster X managed to bend them and lift Cthulhu to his feet. Cthulhu roared in pain until he managed to break free from the grip and tried to hit Monster X, who ducked to avoid it, but then received a powerful beam from Cthulhu's mouth that made him fall back several meters. But then the albino monster recovered and fired a beam from his eyes, hitting Cthulhu squarely, who fell to his knees as a black liquid oozed from his chest. Cthulhu. Damn, died, he said with hatred and pain. Monster X. And this is just the beginning, he said, standing up just like Cthulhu. They both ran towards each other while their fists glowed and gave loud roars that were heard by the whole world. They exchanged blows, striking each other in the face, causing a great light to engulf the entire city. Whis reacted quickly and grabbed everyone, including soldiers from both worlds, though it was difficult only to teleport to the first place that came to mind. Xenosama's temple. Xenosama's temple. Almost all the gods of destruction were there, along with their respective angels, and Kaitians gathered with their best warriors. Only universes 6, 7, 10, and 11 were missing, although their best warriors were also gathered there, except for universe 7, where only the old and new Kaitian were present, which intrigued everyone. Haba. Where could Lord Champa be? He asked while looking all around. Caulifla. TSK. I don't know and I don't care. She said, somewhat annoyed. Hail. One Isan, don't say that, remember he's a god of destruction. She said nervously. Hit. But the gods of universes 10, 11, and universe 7 are also missing, he said seriously. Something must have happened for us all to be gathered here, he thought. Then a man appeared who looked very similar to them and stood in the middle of everyone, making them pay attention to what he was going to say. Grand Priest. Welcome everyone to the great temple of Xenosama, he said with a serious attitude. I have summoned you along with your best warriors, because a few months ago the great Xenosama and I detected a great power coming from universe 7. Bold Kaitian. If that's what you mean, I can explain it, he said, drawing everyone's attention. The day he felt the power was when Beerus-sama went to Earth to try to find the Super Saiyan god, and he found him. And who was it? Asked a voice that sounded childish. At that moment, everyone turned around and saw a small boy with a football-shaped head, who was none other than Xenosama. Bold Kaitian. It was a young Saiyan named Son Goku, he said, showing a video of her fighting against Beerus in Super Saiyan God mode. When the fight ended and Lord Beerus was about to destroy the earth, a being of great power appeared, confronted him, and defeated him without any problem, he said, shocking everyone that Beerus had been defeated. Grand Priest. And what is the name of that being? Bold Kaitian. He calls himself Monster X, he said, showing an image of the aforementioned, causing some of the women present to blush. Xenosama. So it was him. Bashinkin. It seems so, but well, a large increase in power was also detected today in universe 7, but it wasn't just one, it was two. Jiren. So you mean something bad is happening in universe 7? Bashinkin. That's right, young warrior of universe 11, so I recommend you prepare yourselves, as we will be going to universe. I didn't finish when I saw a pillar of light crash, causing a great curtain of dust. As it dissipated, you could see the gods of destruction from universes 6, 7, 10 and 11 with their angels, the Z-warriors, the armies, Goki, Krull and Louise badly injured. Whis. Thank goodness we made it, he said, standing up with difficulty. Grand Priest. Whis, what happened? Eidos. A new enemy appeared. Haba. It must be someone very powerful to leave them like that. Xenosama. It was that Monster X guy. Goki. Kuoh, how do you know about him? Bold Kaitian. I told you, he said, standing in front of the Saiyan. Xenosama. So it was him. Krull. Don't do anything to him. Louise. He didn't do anything wrong to us, did he? Margarita. And no, to tell the truth he saved us. Huss. It was a certain Cthulhu, she said, being helped by Jares. Grand Priest. Whis, could you show us what is happening now on Earth in universe 7? Whis simply nodded and created a hologram showing what was happening, but what they saw surprised them greatly, as black clouds adorned the sky, destroyed cities, oceans shaking with great aggression, but in the western capital, the battle between the fearsome Cthulhu and the great Monster X was still taking place. Everyone watched as both titans fought without any rest. The great albino shot his beams from his eyes hitting Cthulhu directly. But then the nightmare of darkness attacked him with great force, knocking him down and beginning to hit him in the face while laughing like a lunatic, while everyone in the temple watched with great concern, but especially Goki. Cthulhu. Ha ha ha, you are nothing, you are nobody, ha ha ha, he said, hitting him harder. That's why your family decided to leave you, that's why the women who said they loved you left with others, that's why all those you considered friends and family betrayed you, ha 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 ha. Everyone in Xenosama's temple became quite serious upon hearing that, but others like Kuss, Kale, Ribrianne, Jares, Bulma, Kawe, and especially Goki, Krull, and Louise, seemed less so. They saw Monster X block Cthulhu's blows and push him away, then headbutt him in the jaw, but Cthulhu used his hydro pump beam, forcing the large albino monster back. Cthulhu. Ha ha ha, what's wrong? Did what I said hurt you? He said, unleashing his best attack, the Dark Ray. Monster X. Shut up. He yelled, firing beams from his eyes. Both attacks collided, creating a massive explosion that pushed back Monster X and Cthulhu. But it wasn't just that. It also engulfed the entire Earth in a shockwave, wiping out all life. As the explosion subsided, everything was utterly destroyed, devoid of any signs of life, until they saw some debris shifting. From it emerged Monster X, badly wounded. Monster X stood, surveying the devastation around him. He tried to sense the energies of any living being, but found nothing. He fell to his knees and began to weep, a sight that deeply moved everyone in the temple. Thulhu. And you were supposed to protect this world. Ha, and you were just the one who destroyed it, he said mockingly from behind Monster X. Monster X turned around quickly to strike, but he was the one who received the blow from Cthulhu, being sent flying into a building. Monster X looked up and saw that Cthulhu was bigger and red. Thulhu. You like my power, I must thank my master for giving me a little of his. He said with a grin. Monster X tried to get up, but Cthulhu raised his hand, from which a black beam emerged, enveloping the albino monster in a black aura. He began dragging it until it crashed into a building, then levitated it briefly before dropping it headfirst onto the ground. Next, he dragged it, causing its head to collide with several buildings, and finally levitated it again and dropped it near him. Then, he began stomping on its head as Monster X tried to get up. Thulhu. You're not a guardian monster. He said, exerting more force on his foot, you're just an idiot who destroyed an entire world, you're just a murderer ha 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 ha. With that, he kicked him in the face, sending him crashing into a building. Then, black snakes emerged from his hand and began biting Monster X, draining his energy. All of this unfolded before the horrified eyes of everyone present in the temple. Goki, Krull, and Louise, in a desperate act, attempted to teleport away, but Vegeta stopped them, grabbing them from behind and immobilizing them. Vegeta. What do you think you're doing, Kakarot? Goki. Vegeta, please let me go. I have to help him. We must help him. She screamed desperately while being held by Vegeta, Vados, Kus, Margarita, Kale, Jairus, Caulifla, and Bobi. Goku. They can't go, otherwise all three will end up destroyed. The others only watched the fight, hoping that Monster X would turn the tide, but that hope vanished when they saw him stop struggling to free himself. Everyone thought this was going to be the end of the great albino monster. Thulhu. Ha 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 ha, this is the end for you, monster. But don't feel bad, after I'm done with you, I'll go after your new friends and kill them to keep you company. Ha 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 ha. He said playfully, and the first ones I'll kill will be that girl with the messy hair and the others with pink hair. Monster X. Those girls, he said, remembering Goki, Krull, and Louise, remembering their beauty, their bravery, the purity of their hearts, but most of all, that sweet smile. Those girls, he said, grabbing the snakes again to free himself. If you dare touch them, he said as a golden aura manifested around his body. I'll kill you. The scream caused the snakes to begin burning, making them release Monster X, who fell to his knees while roaring in pain. Everyone saw this and didn't know what was happening until they saw large golden wings with black details sprout from his back. The heads on his shoulders separated and began to whiz, his hands and feet turned into large golden claws, and horns began to sprout from his head until they saw the following. Everyone was more than shocked to see Monster X's transformation, as he was now bigger than Cthulhu and much more intimidating. Cthulhu unleashed a dark beam, but Kaiser Ghidorah's three heads fired a golden beam that, upon contact with Cthulhu's dark beam, vanished, striking the Terror of Darkness directly and causing it to fall to the ground. Kaiser proceeded to crush Cthulhu's head, then kicked it in the face. He then used his beams to levitate Cthulhu, but then his neck began to glow a dark blue, causing his beams to change to blue as well. Cthulhu was launched into the sky. Once outside Earth's atmosphere, Cthulhu exploded as Kaiser Ghidorah watched angrily before letting out a great roar of victory. After witnessing Kaiser Ghidorah defeat the great and fearsome Cthulhu using a new transformation, everyone began to celebrate the victory of the great albino guardian monster. Among them, Goki, Louise, and Krull were the happiest to see Kaiser Ghidorah emerge victorious. But then, she noticed him collapse to the ground, tears welling in his eyes. For some reason, the Saiyan felt her heart clench at the sight of the great golden dragon shedding tears. Seeing Goki staring at the great guardian monster, everyone gathered around, observing the same thing. Caulifla. Why the hell is he crying? He's the one who won. She said incredulously at what she saw. Bold Cation. That's right, I won. But at what cost? He said, making everyone understand why he was crying. Many people died, and that is what causes his sadness. Bulma. But we have the Dragon Balls, with those everyone who died can come back to life, she said happily. Beerus. But does he know? Does he know that there are energies capable of doing those things? He said seriously. At that moment, everyone became sad. It was true that they had the Dragon Balls, but they couldn't even imagine how Kaiser Ghidorah felt. Being betrayed by those he considered his dearest, arriving in a world he knew nothing about, and being told that he was responsible for the deaths of millions of people. The three girls who had grown fond of him had their heads down, but he decided to approach Shinken, who was attentive to what the Saiyan was going to do or ask. Goki. Please send me to where he is, she said decisively. Ishinkan. Senorita Goki. Goki. Please, I must go with him. Krull. At least take us. Xeno-sama. And they will go with him, he said, joining the conversation, but you will not go alone. Goki and the two were somewhat curious about that, but she saw how the others who had witnessed the fight were more than determined to go to the place where Kaiser Ghidorah was, so without further ado, the 12 angels created transport cubes and gathered their respective warriors to then go to Earth in Universe 7. Meanwhile, in the DXD dimension, all the leaders from different mythologies could be seen gathered in Mao Lucifer's office, discussing the issue of Ryu's betrayal and also the search for Issei Hyoudou. Searches. Have you heard anything? Azazel. Nothing, there's no clue as to where Issei could have gone, he said depressed. Auden. I sent the best Valkyries to look for him, but they haven't found anything, only this, he said, showing the necklace Issei had with the picture of him and Rias. Michael. We need to find him and. Zeus. You'd better leave him alone. He said seriously, arms crossed. Note. The Olympian and Egyptian factions did not betray Issei. The Hindu faction did, but I forgot to include it. Shiva. What the hell are you talking about, Zeus? He must be dealing with the supernatural and. Anubis. You'd better shut your pathetic excuse for God. Shiva. You'd better be careful what you say, Anu. Poseidon. You'd better keep quiet, Shiva, he said, threatening him with his trident. Ra. We need to calm down. It's true that we must find the boy, but he has the right to live his life away from our affairs, he said, equally serious. Xerxes. But we must find him, I must find my brother. Horus. Xerxes, it's best if you don't say anything else. Hades. Let me remind you that you were the one who attacked him first, you stabbed him in the back with a sword made of your own energy. Xerxes. Please don't go on. He said with darkened eyes and a trembling voice. Hades. What? Does it hurt you to hear the truth? Let me remind you of your words. Xerxes. Please shut up. Hades. I wish I had taken Ryu as my brother instead of you, you damn traitor. He said angrily. Xerxes. Be quiet. He said, throwing a sphere of destruction that Hades deflected with great ease. Do you think I've forgotten what I did to him? It's true that I attacked him treacherously. It's true that he deserves a life outside of our affairs. He said, shedding many tears, but at least I'd like to see him again. To see if he's started a family. To see if he's alright. He said, slamming his head on the table. I know I deserve his hatred, I know I deserve to die at his hands, but at least I'd like to see him one more time, to be a part of his life, even if only for a miserable second. He said, crying even harder. Azazel. Xerxes, stop that already. We'll find him, apologize, and maybe he'll come back to us. He didn't finish, interrupted by Zeus. Zeus. Silence. He shouted loudly, slamming his fist on the table before standing up. You're all a bunch of hypocrites. He said, referring to the traitors. Do you really think that by doing this you'll be able to redeem your past crimes? At least Xerxes accepts the consequences of his mistake, he said seriously, watching Xerxes cry uncontrollably. I'm informing you now that Great Red plans to leave this world with his daughters, Ophis and Trixa, in search of the child. Perhaps we will accompany them. Shiva. If they plan to do that, why didn't they tell us? Ra. Because when we find him we will make our lives in the world where he is, just like the Sitri retinue, Phoenix. Athenas. To be clear, we're not bringing him here, we're keeping him. Michael. But. Seth. But nothing, kid. But before anyone could say anything else, a demon rushed in. Demon. Lord, I bring news. He said very hurriedly. Xerxes. What news do you bring? He said without any emotion. Demon. A hooded figure appeared, saying he knows where the former Sekiryuutei might be. After saying that, they all quickly left and saw a hooded figure standing in front of them, whose only visible feature was his smiling mouth. So you're the famous faction leaders. Shiva. They said you knew where the brat was. Is that true? That's right, but to tell you all, you have to be here, hahaha. As Shiva said that, he snapped his fingers, and immediately several servants of the Gremory house went in search of the Gremory girls and summoned the Sitri, Baal, Phoenix, and Agares clans, Vali's team, Issei's former parents, and the dragon gods, who reluctantly went because it was a good opportunity to find out where Issei was so they could go to him. Rias. Is it true that you know where Issei is? She said desperately, grabbing the man by the collar of his robe. Please tell me where my Issei is. Xerxes. Please calm down. He ordered, making the redeed release the subject who had a grimace of disgust, something that only the dragon gods, the people who did not betray Issei and Xerxes, saw. Alright, I'll show you everything he's done since arriving at his new home, he said, showing everything that happened in the Dragon Ball dimension, from his arrival to the battle against Cthulhu. The Keno. Ara, it's obvious that my Issei Kuno has become very powerful. Asia. But why is she crying? It's because I can't save the earth, he said sadly. Zenobia. Wait, something is approaching him, she said, as everyone watched 12 sparkles approaching the place where Kaiser Ghidorah was. In the Dragon Ball world. Kaiser was still lying on the ground shedding tears for the earth he swore to protect, but in the end ended up destroying it. At that moment the sparkles landed a few meters in front of him, showing that they were the gods of destruction of the 12 universes, along with their respective companions, as well as Xeno-sama and Deshinken. Beidous. There he is, she said, looking at Kaiser's condition. Bulma. Well, and what will we tell him? Huss. Well, I don't really know. Jiren. Just tell him and that's it. Beerus. Of course, since you weren't beaten up by him. So everyone started arguing about how they would tell him that they could revive everyone with the Dragon Balls, not noticing that Goki and her friends were approaching Kaiser Ghidorah. When he saw her, he only became sadder since he had just destroyed her planet and thought she was going to hate him forever, but then he felt someone touch his snout and saw that it was Goki sitting in front of him. Goki. Calm down, none of this is your fault, she said gently, calming Kaiser a little. You only tried to stop that monster before it destroyed the entire universe. Kaiser. But because of that, I destroyed your world, he said sadly. Krull. But you saved all of us, she said as she stepped aside, revealing the others. Thank you, monster, she said, giving him a small kiss. Kaiser, feeling the Saiyan's lips, felt a pleasant warmth in his heart, so he stood up, revealing his imposing size and leaving everyone amazed. But then Kaiser extended his wings as a golden aura surrounded him. Kaiser let out a great roar, causing a golden glow to shoot into the sky. Everyone didn't understand what he was doing, but then they watched as the gray, lifeless sky changed to its characteristic blue, and plants and flowers began to grow from the ground. Vegeta. This is incredible. He said in amazement. Gears. This is beautiful, she said, holding a white rose. Brienne. She is giving her power to the earth so that it can come back to life, she said, just like Jair's. Pale. That's very nice of you. At that moment, Whis' staff began to glow. He checked to see what was happening, but when he did, he was very, very shocked. Whis. This can't be possible. Deshinken. What's going on? Whis. His power is. Beerus. What's wrong? Whis. It's spreading throughout the entire universe. He said, impressing everyone. It's giving life to several planets that were practically uninhabitable. Margarita. What do you mean, Whis? Whis. What I mean is. Goki. He is giving life to the universe, she said as she watched Kaiser give his power to life, while a tear fell down her cheek. Kaiser Ghidorah looked at Goki, who was crying uncontrollably, a smile adorning his face. The great golden dragon fired his beams into the sky as a golden light enveloped his entire body. No one understood what was happening, but then they saw one of Kaiser's claws transform back into Monster X, only golden, and it positioned itself beside Goki. No one understood what was happening, but then Goki turned around, her eyes closed. When she opened them, they were emerald, but the most surprising thing was that behind her, on the pillar of light, large silver dragon wings sprouted, while Monster X head formed behind her. The Saiyan smiled as Monster X let out a great roar that could be heard throughout all the universes. Chapter 11. More than a year had passed since the defeat of the great Cthulhu. The universe had been saved once again, only this time it wasn't by the warrior Son Goku, but by the guardian Monster X. After what happened, the gods of destruction, along with their angels, Deshinken and Xeno-sama, decided to keep a close watch on Monster X. Goki, Krull, and Louise volunteered to stay close to him. Since then, Issei has lived with Goki, who stays by his side at all times, something that made the white-haired boy feel strange, although at the same time he felt calm having her near. Now Issei was meditating in a waterfall, while the water wet his toned body, and Goki remained seated on the seashore while wearing an orange jacket, a black t-shirt and green shorts. Goki. Sighs, he's been like this for over an hour, she said, sounding bored. I wonder what he's meditating on. Issei's mental space. Everything was dark, there was absolutely nothing, everything was in a sepulchral silence, until several loud crashes were heard accompanied by shock waves, after which the white-haired boy appeared, who had several scratches and wounds, while in front of him was a red-haired boy whom he hated with all his soul. That red-haired boy was Red. Red? What's wrong, monster? Are you tired already? He asked mockingly while smiling arrogantly. Issei. Shut up. He said angrily, disappearing along with Red. Both appeared and disappeared in different places while exchanging blows and kicks. Only Issei was the one who received more blows, while Red blocked them all as if it were just a joke. After exchanging blows, Issei was seen all beaten up, only to receive a blow from behind by Red, who smiled maliciously and arrogantly, while Issei had a look full of hatred. Red. Hahaha, you're pathetic, monster. He said, then appeared in front of him and plunged a red sword made of Kai into his heart. You're weak, monster. I want you to know that when we meet, I'm going to take away what you love most. He said seriously. I'll kill that Son Goku girl, that Krulteeps girl, and that Louise girl. After that, Issei suddenly opened his eyes, realizing he was in the real world. He took a deep breath and then looked up at the blue sky, thinking about the words Red had told him. Even though it was just a product of his mind for training, he felt for a moment that those words were true. But when he turned back to face forward, he saw Goku, who looked very worried. Issei. What's wrong? He asked, not understanding why she had that look. Goku. Are you okay? She asked worriedly, does anything hurt? Issei. Why do you ask that? He said before feeling something come out of his lip like some kind of liquid. And this? He asked, touching his lip and seeing that it was blood. Goku. Are you sure you're okay? She asked worriedly. Issei. Yes, you don't have to be like that, he said, getting up to go to Goku's house. She stayed there a while longer, thinking about Issei. Why was he like that? What could have happened to him to make him so withdrawn and cold? She decided to put it aside and run to catch up with him. She saw him in the forest with a small bird on his finger and a faint smile on his face, which made her smile too. Issei. How peaceful, he said as he placed the little bird in a nest. Goku. You're absolutely right, he said, emerging from his hiding place as he approached the albino. That's why I've always liked living here in the forest. Upon seeing Goku smile, Issei could feel his cheeks warm up slightly and be adorned with a light red tint. Goku. Huh? Are you okay? He asked innocently. Issei. If I'm fine, why do you ask? He said somewhat nervously as Goku approached him. Goku. It's because your cheeks are red. Do you have a fever? He said, pressing his head against his. Issei. She's too innocent, he thought as he blushed a little more. I'm fine, don't worry, he said, separating himself a little from her just to see the beautiful sunset. Goku. It's beautiful, don't you think? He said, watching the sunset. Issei. Lois. After that, everything fell silent between the two of them as they watched the sunset, at least Issei did, since Goku stared at him, seeing in his lifeless eyes the pain and sadness he had endured in his past life. Goku was about to speak when Issei interrupted her. Issei. Do you think I'm a danger? He asked without taking his eyes off the horizon. Goku. What did you say? Issei. Do you think I'm a threat? He asked, still looking at the horizon. Goku didn't know what to say. She didn't understand why he asked that. What could have happened in his previous home to make him ask that? How much pain had he endured to say that? Issei. That's what I thought, he said, starting to walk away from her. Goku immediately grabbed his arm to prevent him from leaving, while her eyes were covered by the tips of her hair. Goku. I don't understand why you say that, but I don't think you're dangerous or a threat. I'd like to get to know you better and try to help you. Krul and Louise don't think you're a danger either. She said while Issei looked at her with some surprise at her answer, since he hadn't expected something like that. Issei. Do you want to go out with me tomorrow? He asked somewhat nervously. I'd like to tell you my story. Goku. Of course, she said with a smile. They both proceeded to the Saiyan's house, Issei walking calmly while Goku skipped around him, which brought a slight smile to the monster's face as he gazed at the Saiyan's sweet smile. It was a beautiful and peaceful morning on Mount Paozu. The birds were singing and animals were wandering throughout the forest, especially near the home of a certain Saiyan, where a certain albino was sleeping peacefully. Suddenly, the door opened, revealing a shadow that began to slowly and stealthily approach Issei, who was sleeping soundly. The figure sat on the edge of the bed, watching him sleep peacefully, but then saw him begin to stir aggressively, worrying the person beside him. What's wrong? She asked worriedly as daylight began to enter Issei's room, revealing that it was Son Goku, who was very worried. Issei, how much suffering did you go through? Issei's dream. He found himself surrounded by several people he knew quite well, those he had once trusted, but who had ultimately turned their backs on him. Upon seeing them, Issei was immediately filled with hatred and tried to attack, but he couldn't move. He noticed magical chains on his wrists and neck, and he no longer possessed the Titan power he had been granted. His former companions and loves began to approach him with smiles on their faces, while Issei tried to break the chains, as hatred began to consume him. Rias. Well, what do we have here if it isn't the strongest pawn of all? Ha, she said mockingly, while giving him a strong kick. Issei. Damned, I swear that when I am freed I will kill you all in such a cruel and merciless way, he said, giving another tug to the chains. The sound of them beginning to break could be heard. Sirzechs. It seems you want to act tough, he said as he drew a sword and approached the albino. We'll have a lot of fun listening to your screams after. Saying that, he plunged his sword into Issei's stomach, causing a lot of blood to fall on the ground and making the albino let out a great scream. In the real world, Issei had let out a great heart-rending scream, greatly frightening Son Goku, who began to shake him to wake him up, but she could only hear his screams growing louder as he clutched his chest. This began to frighten the Saiyan, who, in a desperate attempt, placed a kiss on the Titan's lips. Upon feeling the Saiyan's soft and sweet lips, he managed to calm down a little. In Issei's dreams. He was still chained up, covered in blood and wounds, but the most prominent was the one on his chest, more specifically on his heart. Everyone around him began to laugh in a way so evil and ruthless, worthy of true demons. But then a light began to appear as a voice began to be heard in that darkness, a voice he knew quite well, a voice that had been with him since he arrived in that world. Monster X, Monster X. Shouted the voice of that girl who seemed to be approaching him. Issei could see a great white light illuminating the entire place as the girl's voice could be heard, and she seemed to be approaching where he and the traders were. He couldn't recognize the girl, even though her voice was familiar. Then he saw her pass through the group of traders, making them disappear and leaving only him and her. He didn't understand who she was until he felt her caress his cheek. "Monster, please wake up," he said while giving her a small kiss near the corner of her lips. "Issei. Who are you?" he asked while still feeling the pain of his torture. "Who are you?" he asked, looking at the woman who was covered by the great white light. "Monster, please wake up, don't leave us, don't abandon us," he said, then kissed him on the lips, surprising the brunette, just as the place began to glow intensely. In the real world. Goki had broken away from the kiss she had given the albino, and she saw that he was much calmer. She proceeded to caress his cheek as she watched him rest, but she didn't expect Issei to grab the hand that was holding his cheek as he began to open his eyes, seeing those beautiful onyx eyes that he loved so much, as well as that beautiful spiky dark hair. He finally opened his eyes and saw that it was the great warrior Son Goki, who had a slight blush, and on impulse, he caressed her cheek as he approached her. "Issei." So it was her, he thought as a slight blush appeared on his face. "She was my light in my darkness," he said, almost about to kiss her. "Goki. Monster," she said nervously while holding her chest, making the albino realize what she was doing. "Issei. I'm sorry," he said, pulling away from her. Sorry for doing this. He didn't finish speaking as he felt Goki kiss his cheek. "Goki. There's nothing to forgive, monster, to tell you the truth, Issei. Issei interrumpio Goki. Goki. K. Issei. My name is Issei. Goki. So Issei is your real name," she said as she approached him and put her head on the albino's chest and wrapped her arms around him. "What was wrong? Were you moving and screaming in pain? I was so scared to see you like that," she said, starting to shed many tears as she clung to him more tightly. "Issei. Goki," he said softly, hugging her protectively. "I think it's time I told you my story," he said as Goki looked into his red eyes and he into her onyx eyes. Dimension DXD. Who knows how much time has passed since the truth about Ryu and Issei's innocence were revealed. Since then, things haven't been the same. All the factions were affected by the news. Ryu was imprisoned in the deepest part of Tartarus. Azazel, along with Ajuka and Uriel, were trying to keep Drake alive. They brought back the Op-Eye Dragon program, showing the episodes that hadn't aired before the betrayal, as well as the merchandise that once belonged to the true hero of the factions. The leaders began trying to find a way to open a dimensional rift so they could reach the brunette and bring him back to where he belongs. Meanwhile, the former girls of the former brunette were depressed and kept saying that he would return to be with them so they could have the happy ending they so desperately wanted. In the dimensional rift. The Olympian gods, the Sitri retinue, Phoenix Kuoh, Lilith, and the three dragon gods could be seen atop a large rock. What were they doing there? Simple, they were eating some ramen while resting from their search for the Dragon Ball dimension. They had already checked a total of about 500 dimensions and found nothing, but they decided to take a break and eat something. Office and Trixa were fighting amongst themselves to see who would get to eat the shrimp ramen with habanero, something that undoubtedly made everyone laugh. They even made bets to kill time. Back in the Dragon Ball dimension. Issei and Goki were still embracing, the brunette crying and the warrior trying to soothe the pain and sadness that had been implanted in her heart. She had heard the white-haired boy's whole story, and to say she was furious was an understatement. She wasn't going to let him go through something like that again. She would stay by his side and never abandon him. The white-haired boy felt like he had finally lifted a huge weight off his shoulders by telling Goki everything, but he also felt his heart beginning to be invaded by a warm feeling brought on by Goki's embrace. "Issei. Thank you, Goki," he whispered as he hugged her a little tighter. "Goki. I'll always be there for you, Issei," she said tenderly, hugging him while kissing his cheek, causing Issei to pull away slightly before looking into her eyes as he pressed his forehead to hers. He felt her breathing quicken slightly as he took her by the waist and pulled her closer, finally doing what he had wanted to do since the moment he saw her. He had claimed Son Goki's sweet lips in a tender and passionate kiss. End of chapter 11. Chapter 12. Lemon skipped. Throughout the day, Goki and Issei gave themselves to each other in that act of love where they gave themselves for the first time, in addition to being the beginning of a beautiful relationship that would last forever. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.